First things first, Ariaan, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm alright, thank you.
Good.
Before we talk about the music that you're making now, I'd like to go back to the beginning quickly.
Sure.
Do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Do I remember the first album I ever bought? I think that would be like Michael Jackson or something. What's that album called? Before Thriller.
Off the Wall?
Yeah, Off the Wall. I think
Off
it
the
was
Wall.
Off the Wall, yeah.
Okay, so Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
What attracted you to his music at that point?
Energetic, cool, not like anything else.
Was there a lot of music around when you were growing up?
Yeah. My parents, they listened to pop music like all the time. I grew up with pop music, classical and jazz music.
Okay.
I used to play saxophone since I was 8. And I listened to a lot of classical music too and pop music as well.
So maybe one song or record that stood out that your parents would play?
The Police.
The Police?
Yeah, the Police were like, I think it was Ghost in the Machine, the black with the red, yeah, I love that album. Yeah.
Okay. And well, you started playing the saxophone at age 8.
Yeah.
What attracted you to playing the saxophone?
My uncle, he played saxophone,
Okay.
and I thought it was really shiny, nice object. So and I liked the sound coming out of it. And I started playing it, and I did it for 12 years.
Okay.
And but when I was 16, I started to more move into electronic music, and bought a computer, a drum computer, you know how it goes. And then the saxophone was not. Yeah, it was used in when I was like 18 or 20. It was used in the cheaper house music, so I didn't think it was cool anymore. You know, I a little bit regret it, but I still have my saxophone. I can still play it. So
Do you ever play it?
Yeah. Sometimes I grab it and I play it, but I play piano and guitar at the moment. So
Okay, but so from very early on, music was always a big part of it.
always been there. Yeah.
Okay, and then at age 16, you say electronic music came into the picture. What was there a certain moment that caught your interest?
At one point I think I was 15 or something, and one of the first record stores in Holland opened, Stad Den Haag Records, and it was, I live in Voorhout, and that's like near to Leiden and like 25 minutes from The Hague. And I went there with a friend on the moped and buying records there and then playing it at home. And the moment I was 16, I started playing in a club where you can only enter when you were 18. And I said I was 18, and this guy let me play and he liked it. So I started playing there, and from that moment on I played at clubs. And,
Was there a moment that you thought, I can do this professionally and I want to release that?
My girlfriend back in the day always said, yeah, you have to do professionally. Yeah, but it was like, no, it's not for me. And but at one point, I started making music more and more, and I was more involved in labels. I had some friends with record labels, and everybody said, "Oh, you should do it more professionally." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." But at one point, there was this click or something like, "Okay, let's quit everything I have. Let's start over. Let's do music," and that's what I did.
But it must have been kind of a risk to do that.
It's a big risk. Everybody said you're crazy.
Okay.
Everyone said, from my parents to my friends, like, "Oh, there's not the industry. You can never make it. It's hard and blah blah blah." But we did it, and I'm still doing it. It's good.
Okay. So then, well, we have to skip through it a bit. Yeah. So when did you first meet Peter?
In 2004, we had a mutual friend, and I didn't go out that much. I played in the weekends in more local clubs. But my friend went out here to the Melkweg. He also had that Earth parties from Pair, and like they knew each other. He said, "Oh, you should work together." So he quit his job actually, and I had a studio in Amsterdam. From a friend of mine asked me to put down a studio to make some music for this one project. And Peter said, "Can I have like a space here as well?" When we met each other, and I said, "Yeah, around the corner." And he never went into his studio. We were only sitting in my studio. Okay. So that is how 60 Milliliters came through.
Do you remember what you saw in each other that made you want to work together?
Peter is amazing. He's like a genius with music. He studies classical music since he was 8. Didn't listen to any other music till he was 16 or 17 besides classical music. And we were attracted because I think you can see an artist in the end.
Well, with Peter having this rich background in music, and then you also playing saxophone, did it add something when it came to?
Yeah,
to
definitely.
producing?
Everybody has his own opinion and his own interest, of course, and it always reflects on your music. And when we started with 16 Bit Lolitas, it was just more like experimental. Like we didn't really want to make the house music in the house music. We did albums after album, experimental music. And we did some house tracks in between, and that is how 16 Bit Lolitas grew and grew. And then we got a little bit after experimental music and made it more like a more sellable product and a more thing that could start playing all across the globe.
So when you're in the studio now, do these experimental type
we
songs,
still do it.
Do they come out?
Yeah, we still do it, because if you only make one particular style of music, you get really bored. At least I get really bored, and Peter too. So sometimes we just like make weird stuff that doesn't make any sense. But the thing is, you make little tricks and you find new little things you're doing, or maybe you can even make one sound and you use it back in another track. You know, like that's what we do a lot. We make a lot of music, and then we get our experimental stuff. We drag it to a more housey or deep vibe, and then it becomes something else.
Now, in the past couple of years, electronic music has really taken off, and has become more of a mainstream type music, especially here in the Netherlands. Having so many artists around and so much of electronic music around, is it difficult to separate yourself from the rest?
It's always difficult to separate yourself from the rest, because at the moment you have a lot with marketing, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. I'm not good at it. I can't do it. It's like not for me. It's not made for me. And then it's becoming really difficult to have an outlet for your music. And but of course, it's a forest, and you're the one tree in the forest in the end. And express yourself. But I think if an artist stays true to himself, they make a chance.
Okay.
And if you keep doing that for years and years, then at one point you will grow bigger. You saw it with Colombo, you saw it with like a lot of other artists who were already busy for 10, 15 years. Amé Dixon, the same thing, you know, those guys were busy for years and years. And then it grew, and now they're mega huge. It's one of the things.
One thing, a word that kept popping up when I was doing research on you guys was underground. And so for you guys, is it important to not go into this flow of how should I explain the way the wind is blowing, so to say, not to?
No, we're not following any type of style or something. And but what I just said as well, like we want to stay true to ourselves. And with the EDM and all that other stuff, I love the productions are great, you know, like it sounds amazing, and I see crowds jumping on and off, and I was like, I can do that too, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to be one of those DJs like popping up for 2 years and then having nothing to do anymore the rest of your life. And I think you can do it with Deep House. You can really much more build it. And it's about your credibility, it's about the scene, it's about how the people look at you. It's all about perspective in the end, perception in the end. So, I keep doing this.
Well, this is going to be maybe an impossible question to answer, but what for you then are certain elements that make a good song, that you need in a good song? Not necessarily technical elements, but something.
You need a good kick. You need a good hi-hat. It's not even always, you know, like sometimes you can even do it with only a bass line or something. There are tracks that only a bass line, we're big tracks. But for me it's always good to have a good surface to start from. And sometimes you start with a melody, sometimes you start with something else, but it comes in the end always up the drive and the ambience, the vibe. That is, I think the vibe is the most important thing for us to work on. And
if you take one of your recent releases, Deep in My Soul, what was the starting point of that song? Well, did you start with the melody or with the?
No, we started with the beat to make how the track started. That's actually how we also started with the track, and then we had an organy kind of thing. And we love Radiohead and more like the melancholic kind of ways how they play. and we made a chord progression like that, and it all grew from that. And by accident, we were going through our a cappella directories, and by accident, the first we clicked, Peter clicked the Deep in My Soul, and it fitted directly, like, we were like, oh, that sounds good, let's leave it there. So that is how Deep in My Soul in the end.
In that way, the way you describe the way a song comes together, as a producer, and especially working with somebody, is it difficult to know when a song is finished?
No, you know it.
How?
It's not boring anymore. Of course, you play it out in the club, and you start, and you look at the crowd, and you see if parts are too long, or if you need to do more effects to like fill it up or something. So, of course, you test it out, you see how it works, and see it from there, you know. And but I make everyday music my whole life already, you know. And at one point, you get to the point that you know when the song is finished. Maybe it's not a good song, but you always need to finish a song. Okay. That's in my opinion.
Well, you've been at it quite a while, and as you say, you make music every day.
Yeah.
Do you still surprise yourself then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you give me an example of something recently that happened that surprised you?
For example, with beat organ, when we made that, it was in the afternoon, and Peter was not convinced about the melody and about the bass line. And when I finished it in the night, and I called my manager and said, "Oh, mate, this is a really nice song. I don't know about it yet, but it's a really nice song." And my manager listened to it. Yeah, I don't know. I said, "Oh no." I said, I think this can be a big track. And then Anjuna Deep heard it and was like, "Oh, it's an amazing song." And it grew from that, you know. It's sometimes you don't know. You never know if something becomes a big track, right. Yes or no.
Sorry. Well, Deep in My Soul is part of an EP.
Yeah.
But previously you've also released a couple of albums, Supermarket being one of them. Are there any plans of developing
Definitely.
Deep in My?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely. We're gonna continue with the sound, and at one point the thing is with albums, Supermarket. Was it Supermarket or Waarom? One of the two albums, we started making a new album, and then the computer crashed. We almost finished it, and then the computer crashed, and we only had 2 weeks to get the album ready. And we're like, oh fuck, how are we going to do that? So we had to make it in 2 weeks, a complete new album. I don't remember if it was Supermarket, if it was Waarom, but one of the two, we did it like in 2 weeks, and like only working, and then it works out. Yeah.
And now then, do you know, does a certain point arrive when you think, okay, now it's time to start working on a new album, or?
It just comes.
Okay.
When you're making just a shitload of tracks, at one point the coherency starts to form itself, and then you're like, okay, you don't want to have like only vocal tracks on a thing. You don't only want to have instrumentals or something. If you do techno or that kind of stuff, of course you can do that, but without it's a little bit more versatile. It's deep, it's progressive, it has a little bit tech elements, it has techno elements, etc., etc. So, and you start mixing it, or you make like 25 tracks, if an album has 15 tracks or something. And then you search for the 15 best tracks, or the 15 tracks that fit best together on an album. And that's how the album comes together in the end.
And finally, you mentioned being variety and diversity. So how important is it to be diverse in the type of music that you make?
In my opinion, very. Because if you only do the same thing all the time, you get bored of yourself, and then it becomes nothing anymore. So the first time you make a track in a certain kind of style is awesome. And the second time as well. The third time it already becomes a little bit like, but people expect from you that you make that kind of style. So it's difficult to keep the same vibe but be versatile and diverse in the same style, and with the sounds around it and how it should sound, etc., etc.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.